Hello and welcome to a new episode of Code Coach. Today we'll look at how to partition a system. This is the first of a number of parts, probably 3, 4 or 5, see how we go, but today we'll make a start. Okay, let's switch over to Visual Studio Code. Right, so the code that we'll work with is this idea of registering a new customer on our system. Doesn't really matter too much what kind of system it is. We want to register a new customer, and we have a register new customer use case, which is the business logic equivalent of a workflow. So this is our class. I like to use C#. It's my and Visual Studio Code as my IDE, Visual Studio as C# as my language of choice. And when we're registering a new customer on our system inside this register new customer use case, we have a register method or function that takes a model of customer information, so customer registration information, and inside there it will have such things as first name, last name, email address, and so on. Let's go back to where we were, just up here. Okay, so we've got our customer registration, and when we register, or when we've registered our customer successfully, we will return that customer entity. There's a number of things we will need to do. One of them is, as usual, when data comes into a system, we want to make sure that it's valid. So there's a validate step here, and as you can see inside these use cases, we want to have sort of high level chunky policy type steps. So we're validating, then we're converting our registration into a customer with this registration.toCustomer. Then we save the customer against our repository, which you can just view as a database, and then we return the customer. These are just high level steps. Obviously, there is more to each of these. If, for example, we drill into validation, we've got all sorts of other things that we're doing. We're checking whether we've actually got a registration. If not, we throw an exception. The registration can validate itself. It'll check whether there's a first name, last name, and so on. We also check whether or not we've already got the customer in our repository. So this repository, you can just think of it as a database. And we check on email address. If we've got a customer, we've got this is not equal to null, so which means a customer would have been returned to us, then the customer already exists in our application, in our database, and we throw an exception. Otherwise, we can go ahead. If we come back to where we were, if the validation is A-OK, we convert the registration into a customer. The two are not quite the same. Customer might have a customer number, registration doesn't. And we save the customer into our database and return the customer. Okay, so far so good. What if we now had a new step? Okay, and the new step is, so we've got new requirements coming in. We want to send our new customer a welcome email address. Welcome email. Okay, so we want to send, after we've saved the customer, we want to send the customer a welcome email. Cool. So this is now a new requirement, a high-level requirement inside our registered new customer use case. So, okay, cool. So it's been recorded like this, and a developer implements it. And I've already kind of done the work, and I've commented it out down here. So I'll just comment this out. Okay, and I'll uncomment what the developer has done. This is some work the developer's done. All right, so we've got a register method, all these high-level policy methods are still there. We're still validating, registering. So changing the registration to a customer, and then we save the customer. Cool. Now the developer, and it starts here with this comment, the developer who wrote this has gone ahead and put all the details in here. So we're creating using the string builder, we're creating an email sort of template and filling in the customer first name. You can kind of see that. It's obviously a plain text email, and then so this is the email body. The email subject is welcome to ABC Finance. So obviously the company name here is ABC Finance. I've just made this up, but for the sake of what we've got here, might as well be. We've got a mail message. This is part of the framework. We're sending it from info@abcfinance.example.com to the customer with the subject and the body. From configuration, we're sending via the simple mail transfer protocol, so via an SMTP server. And this is the SMTP server name, comes out of configuration. We're then sticking that into our SMTP client and then sending off the email. And then we finish. So that's the sending of our welcome email, and we're returning to the customer. Now there's a number of problems with this particular implementation, in so far that these use cases are meant to contain high-level policy. Here we've got, or the developers put all the detail into this high-level register new customer use case class and method, which can lead to problems. And the problems are the following. So what if some of these things change? If we want to change the email body a little bit, we need to do, which is a detail thing. It's not a high-level policy thing. We need to come in here and do this, which is probably not so good. That ought to live somewhere else. There's also this idea of, okay, we are using SMTP. What if we wanted to change that to instead of using SMTP, the simple mail transfer protocol, which is the sort of way which we used to send emails, and really in which emails are still sent, but nowadays we've got different options. We could, for example, use the AWS simple email service to send emails. So wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? And the use case class, which is about high-level policy, really is just interested in the sending, not in whether we're using the SMTP or AWS, or in fact, for that matter, whether or not we're using, whether we're texting. Does this in fact have to be? Is it at this high level, are we interested in just sending in a notification? We don't want to know whether it is email or text or an in-app message. This is just what we're going to do over the next few videos. We're going to look at how we ought to divvy up the work that's been done here. We're going to refactor that and pull it into different classes, and then from there possibly different components to work out a pluggable architecture, a pluggable design for what we've got here. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this YouTube video, and hopefully you enjoyed it, and please tune in to part 2 of how to partition a system. Thank you very much. Goodbye.